everybody. This is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of thunderous spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Has it really been 250 episodes of Set Point? Oh, yes, it has. What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you the 250th episode of Set Point in the flesh. And we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into in the world of volleyball. We also have a guest coming on. The U.S. Olympic women's national team has been released. We also have the U.S. men's and women's beach national team being released as well. Who is basically on the rosters? Who is going to be an alternate? That we will find out. But welcome one, welcome all to the 250th episode of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 250 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and on Facebook. We also have a website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point. We also have our Fans of the Month, our merchandise shop where you can buy hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, caps, and a whole lot more. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stations around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our two sponsors that help keep the lights on. Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Let us see what they are all about right now.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
That is right, everybody. Definitely check out both our sponsors, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia Beef and Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. They are the official sponsors of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE, and on Instagram at @set_point_IESR. And I also have a Facebook page for Set Point as well. So all you just have to do is type in the word set and then point, and then you should see the banner with the backdrop and the beautiful beach volleyball court and whatnot. And the way you can follow me personally is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez 1. That's where I'm mainly active. So without any further delay, let's get this show on the road as, like I said, this is the 250th episode of Set Point. And if you all saw today on my social media, my Instagram and on X, I have a giveaway. So I'm giving out a $25 gift card for anything, for a $25 gift card for Visa, MasterCard, whatever it is. So basically I'll have 3 questions, and basically if you get them all right, you basically win. But you have to be the first one to chime in, and then basically you have to claim it. Otherwise, I'll go to the next one, and so on and so forth. And you'll have to basically have to get the questions live here, and you can also comment in the comment section, or if you're listening on the playback, you could also comment in the playback if it's not already in the comments right here and then. So there you have it right there. So the first question for our 3 questions is this: how many female guests have there been on Set Point? You also will get a bonus point if you can name each guest. So there are 3 guests. And I just messed up. So I already messed up the first question. So luckily I have backup questions. So the second question that I have lined up is that this is actually the second time I've done StreamYard for Set Point. What episode number was the first time I did Set Point? Remember, here's a clue. There are 249 episodes prior to this one. So that's obviously a big fail on my part when it came to the first question. But the official first question is, what episode number did I do Set Point first when it came to StreamYard? This is not the first episode of StreamYard. What episode number did I first do StreamYard with Set Point? I'll let y'all write your answer down or keep it stored in your mind. But without any further delay, let us get on into our guest. Question number 2 will eventually be coming on somewhere around the show, so keep your eyes peeled when it comes to that. But let us bring on our guest, and without any further delay, he needs no introduction, but I will give him one anyway. He is the head coach of Loyola High School's boys volleyball team. He is a 7-time CIF Southern Section boys volleyball champion as a head coach, and his team just recently wound up winning it all this season, where they took down the rival Miracosta in straight sets at Cerritos College. He's also a very down-to-earth guy. He's also played professional beach volleyball. He's coached many amazing players such as Dylan Klein, Ryan Venna, J.P. Riley, the Wedbush brothers, Henry, and I think Jackson is his name. And he's coached many amazing players to the collegiate level and sometimes to the professional level. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, bringing on my guest for tonight, Mr. Michael Boehle. How you doing, Michael?
Good, Teran. Thank you for the introduction, and I got to tell you, it's pretty special for me to be on your 250th show, so thank you for having me.
Anytime, Michael. I'm glad to have you on. Thank you for being the guest. You're actually my first ever guest when it comes to StreamYard. But without any further delay, let us get on into this interview. But first and foremost, just in case the feds are watching, these are the thoughts and opinions of myself, Teran Rodriguez, and of Michael Boehle, and not the thoughts and opinions of iSports Radio, Loyola High School, or any third or fourth party organizations. With that being said, Michael, I've rambled on long enough. The floor is yours. Tell me, who are you? Well, other than your name, what do you do? How did you first get into volleyball? And tell everybody a little bit who you are.
Sure. The introduction, I think, speaks for itself. My name is Michael Boehle. I've been the head coach at Loyola Volleyball for the last 26 years. Before that, when I was growing up, my mom and dad were very vital in introducing me to the sport of volleyball. My dad was both a basketball and volleyball player at Loyola University, and it was before the NCAA was actually sanctioning college volleyball. My mom was an avid beach player and did played a lot of mixed doubles with some of the great players back in the day in the 60s and the 70s, with the Sawara brothers, the Butch May, Misty May's dad, Butch. And so I was around it at a young age. My dad also played on the CBVA, which is now called the CBVA circuit, in the 60s and 70s, and had a successful career. And before the professional circuit took off. So you were probably playing for certificates and 6-packs of beer. But I followed him up and down the coast and just took a liking to it. As a young kid, I played every sport there was out there. And then finally had the ability, and I was very fortunate to play on the AVP tour for 7 years, and had a great time. And that was when the AVP was really thriving, and met some of my best friends today on the AVP tour. And, once I finished with that, I fell back into education and was a athletic director at St. Monica High School in Santa Monica, where I also coached girls and boys volleyball, and it just kind of escalated from there. 4 years in, I got a call from Loyola High School asking me if I'd come back to my alma mater, and I jumped at it. And it was a year of kind of waiting to see. They wouldn't allow me to coach my first year. They wanted me to get acclimated with the job that I had taken there as director of business operations. But they knew my background and knew that I wanted to coach. And so after a year, they officially named me the head volleyball coach in '99, and the rest is history. It's been a wonderful 26 years. As you mentioned earlier, Teran, coaching some wonderful players through that 26-year career. My first team, in '99 was Kurt Topple, who was an All-American at Stanford and played on our national team. I could name a handful of players, from Steve Irvin to Sean Kelly to Dylan Klein to the Wedbush brothers. There's just a lot. My own sons all played for me. So it's been a wonderful journey, one that I'm not ready to give up yet, but happy to have had some success this year with the group that we had, and happy to be on this show to help promote the game of volleyball, because I think get the word out that this volleyball is the real deal. The boys' game is the real deal. So growing it as much as we possibly can is important to me. And you're starting it. This platform is a great platform to start, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for what you've done, and how into it you are. How important this is to you. And I knew that 4 or 5 years ago when I first met you. So thanks again, and hopefully that was enough of an introduction. And if you want me to finish talking, I can stop right now.
Nah, that was an amazing introduction to you. Amazing story right there. Excellent stuff. Now, this is actually something I had planned on asking you. You coached your sons. What was it like coaching your sons? I know Davis was one. You're going to have to remind me who the other one was. I apologize, unfortunately.
Sure. I've got 3 boys and a daughter. My oldest is Parker, who graduated in 2012. My second is Hayden, 2014. And then Davis was 2016. And obviously Ella, I couldn't coach because we're an all boys school. So I can tell you it was a pretty interesting dynamic. They've been around the game since they were tiny. We have a court in our backyard that we started out playing in their bedroom with a broomstick and a balloon to get them to understand the game. And it was just, to kind of just figure it out. And then it gradually progressed into our backyard with a 4.5-foot net that we would raise eventually up to 8 feet when they got older. But coaching them was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And it was also a challenging experience, because coming with that, when you coach your own sons or kids for that matter, you're scrutinized pretty heavily, right? Especially if your son or daughter is playing, they're only playing because they're your son or they're your daughter. And so I knew that going in, and I knew that if my kids were deserving of playing, they were going to play. And I'll tell you, Teran, the hardest thing for me was they proved that they could play. It was separating the dad and the coach thing, right? Because I treated them in the gym just like I would any other player. In fact, all my players are extensions of my own kids. That's how I treat them. And then when they got into the car to go home, then I became their dad, and there were times, believe it or not, in the gym during a match, practice, where they thought they were talking to their dad, and I didn't have it. And so there were times, I think I at least one time kicked each of them out of practice once for popping up. I know Parker's story was we were playing Santa Margarita at our place in 2011, and he didn't make a move for a ball. And I stood up and I said, Park, you got to get to this spot in order. We just talked about it. And he said, do you want to come out here and dig this guy? And I just went sub. And I remember pulling him out. My wife and my parents were in the stands, and it wasn't because he wasn't playing well. It was because he did something that I don't allow our kids to do. They don't talk back to the coach. So I loved it. I didn't have many problems, but the juggling between dad and coach was sometimes hard. And then to hear parents talk about your family, it was hard sometimes. But all my kids, all four of them, ended up playing collegiately at the Division I level, and I'm just so proud of all of them and what they've accomplished. So I was honored to be able to coach them, and now they're giving back by coaching with my club, and then Davis, Parker, and Hayden have each coached with me at Loyola. So it's been really cool.
Amazing story right there. Just absolutely astounding. So this question actually is perfect segue to go into what we were going to talk about. Mikey Two Guns, one of our former hosts, he's now doing it big with his show, Our Bleepin' City, a Boston show. Your team did win the CIF Southern Section Division I Championship and the CIF SoCal Regional Championship. Mikey asks, how do you keep your team motivated after winning it all this year?
That's a good question. So obviously don't have to get into anything until we get back into school, but we've got a real good core group of guys coming back that had a taste of this. Some of them, were actually played in some of these matches, and so they got to see. But when you get to Loyola, the expectation when you get into Loyola High School, and particularly our volleyball program, there's an expectation of, following our culture, discipline, being respectful, having character, taking care of our side. And I think what's going to motivate our players for next year is exactly what happened to them this year. They saw what happened. They saw what they're capable of doing with, with the team that they were on. Why not try and repeat that? And, you can say talent's going to win ball games. It certainly helps, but you've got to have that cohesiveness. We kind of talked about it earlier before the show. You've got to have those guys each buying in. You've got to have those roles that each of them play. And so for next year, those guys each have to understand things are different. Every year it changes. Every year I have to change some of the approaches that I may take, and those vary. I couldn't even get into them because it just depends on the group that I have, but every year is different. And so when I get this new cream of the crop, I've got to go in and explain to them, here's who we are, here's what we do, and, let's go have a fun season. So losing Sean Kelly is certainly a huge void. I've had those kind of players before, maybe not as profound as Sean, but, people have said, oh, you won because you had Sean. Of course he had something to do with that. He's the best player in the country. But you talk about the guys that had to play around him, that's way more important because they've got to figure out their role and how do they fit into that equation. And Sean did an incredible job of getting them to buy in. And so, I knew it was special the minute we, kind of took a little bit of a hiccup in the Best of the West and came back. We went on a 24-match win streak. Those guys finally bought in and realized, here's what we have to do. I can't have a bad match and think that Sean's going to take me out of this. We all have to be in this together from the.
Looks like we lost Michael for a little bit, but he did mention that Sean Kelly was part of his team, and he is going to UCLA. He is a big focal point for Loyola. He is definitely the real deal. So overall, when it comes to Loyola, it wasn't just him. It was just other players. It was Parker Schloss, the setter, who stepped up as well. It was Kai Klein, who also stepped up at middle as well. So once Michael Boehle gets back, we'll be dissecting the season that Loyola had. And they only lost one match, and that wasn't even a best 3 out of 5 match. It was best 2 out of 3, which is a whole different animal when it comes to the world of volleyball, or when it comes to any volleyball match, because 2 out of 3 matches, once you lose the first set, your backs are kind of against the wall and there's pressure amongst you. So for Loyola, they only lost to Mater Dei in the Best of the West tournament. And I can go as far as to say that Loyola doesn't really even peak when it comes to Best of the West. And that's just my opinion, because they lost in the first round of the Best of the West Gold bracket anyway in the previous year, 2023, where they lost to Servite, which ironically is in Mater Dei's league. So all in all, I think for Loyola, I think that was kind of a turning point, and I think it was just an early season loss. And overall, I just think that Loyola was inevitable. So overall, we'll get Michael Boehle back here, and we'll discuss a little bit more about Loyola boys volleyball and the season that they had, and we shall see where he's at. But don't worry, we will add him on, and we were a little bit of technical difficulties. It's been a while since Set Point has been on StreamYard, so we're just trying to iron the kinks out, and we'll see if we can get Michael Boehle on. I'm sure we can, and whatnot, because we definitely would love to have him on. So anyway, other than that, we have other bits and pieces when it comes to our show. Obviously, the U.S. women's national team, like I mentioned, it got released, and let's just say a lot of people had some questions regarding the roster. And then the U.S. men's volleyball national team was playing in the VNL this past week, and it's only just going to be limited to just the U.S. and then a few notables from the VNL from week 2. And then, if time permits, we will talk about the origin of how Set Point came about. All right, there's Michael Boehle right now. So
I don't know what happened. Sorry, I have no idea. Sorry.
It is all good.
Did you hear anything that I said about the motivating part or no?
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it down. So we're actually going to dissect your team's season. So as you mentioned, your team unfortunately fell to Mater Dei, and I kind of was talking about how your team doesn't really peak when it comes to Best of the West. Is that true, or did you just have one of those type of games against Mater Dei?
That's a good question. Listen, every time we step foot on the court, I want to compete, and if that means that we want to win, then that so be it. It's funny you say that. Last year, same thing happened. We played Servite at the Best of the West in the exact same court at the exact same moment, and I gave that speech this year before breakfast at the hotel and said, "Listen, the exact same thing happened to us. We had our table was set. We had a team that we had already played, Servite, and then going into the semis or quarters." We've got a nice little ride if we can get there. And I thought they heard it, but obviously, credit Mater Dei, they had a good game plan, and we didn't have our best. We just did not play our best, and they did. And so, we were up the minute I knew something was wrong. We were up 18-9 in the first set, and we ended up losing 25-21. That's tough to do when you have that kind of a margin. And so I knew when that happened, we won the second set, and then it was just, okay, this is going to go either way, because I knew how well they were playing and how mediocre we were playing. Kudos to Mater Dei. They stuck it out. They beat us 15-12 or 15-13 in the third set. And, we had to go grind. But I brought them all back and just said, hey, you decide what you want to do. You want to just stop, or do you want to go out and compete? And they chose to compete. We had CDM. We had a team from NorCal, I think, and then someone else. And, like I told you before, we went on a 24-match winning streak, and it was pretty impressive because I think, we made a couple of tweaks in our lineup. We took our left side and moved them to the right, took our right and moved them to the left. And it looked like that's all we needed to really do. And things started to really roll. So I'm torn, Teran, whether or not I wanted to keep going back to the Best of the West, because my goal is to win that tournament every year. But if I keep finishing ninth, am I going to win another championship? Because as you know, the last 2 years, that's exactly what we stopped or finished, and we had our hiccup, and we went on to win 19 last year and 24 this year. So I'm still debating what we want to do next year. So we'll see. But being the competitor that I am, we're going to go out to Best of the West and try to win it.
Yeah, and that's basically it's in the preseason, and basically my motto is championships are not won in February or March. They're won in most likely May. And I think every coach can attest to that when it comes to like volleyball or any sport. But there was one player that I want to say he got hurt, Blake Fallbush. Is there any chance you could like expand on him and what happened and how he's doing and whatnot?
Sure. Blake had an injury back in the club season in August, September-ish. He played in, I believe, one tournament for us, and it might have been the Holiday Classic. But he was struggling with his knee. And so at the beginning of high school season, they decided to go in and get something done. To what extent, I'm not too sure. I do know that they went in arthroscopically and cleaned out his knee and took out a piece of cartilage. And so then the healing process began. So he was hoping back in March, and we were fired up, right, that we were going to get Blake Fallbush back, who was a huge part of our success last year as a freshman. And his knee just wasn't cooperating. So he ended up coming back a little bit for us, where he could play a little bit of back row. You started to see some signs of him laterally moving and jumping a little bit more. We got the clearance from the doctor to start playing. And then he had what they called a stress reaction on his knee. So I think what that is in lay terms is basically, you haven't jumped in 9 months, 8 months. So there's just, your knee's not used to that. And so it just really bothered him, and we didn't want to take any chances. He did play in one set, the fifth set of the Huntington Beach game in the quarterfinals, and made two huge plays for us in set 5 to get us to that win. So it was very unfortunate for him. I feel horrible for him. Right now, he's still trying to get back. He might be back for the 3-day, but definitely wants to play in the nationals. So we're hoping that he gets healthy. And again, I don't have an exact diagnosis for him. I just know he's working hard to try and get back into the gym.
Yeah, no problem. And it's no worries. And yeah, Blake Fallbush is a fantastic player, and he's going to be vital for the Cubs in the coming years. Teran Rodriguez of Set Point on IE Sports Radio with Michael Boehle on the 250th episode of Set Point. Just a few more questions, and then I'll let you go for the night. So Obviously, you've had a lot of amazing wins, but there have been some obviously bummer losses. I'd hate to kind of rip the Band-Aid off with this, but you had the 2022 loss to Newport Harbor in the CIF Southern Section Finals, and then a few other bumps and bruises along the way. How do you block out the losses and just press forward as a coach? And how do you balance that yin and yang?
Sure. I don't think you ever get over the losses. You have to give credit to the teams that win because they played better that night. We were fortunate to get Newport early on, but they were better, and they had nothing to lose or nothing to prove. I was always impressed with how Eric got his teams ready, and our team was loaded that year. But I think it says, and it shows you what we kind of talked about. You can have all the talent in the world. If they're not all on one page, things can start to go a little south. And before you know it, we win the first set, lose the second, win the third, lose the fourth, and now we're in the fifth set. When that happens, it can go either way. And they got off to an easy start, and we got tight as opposed to playing loose. And like I told you before, Newport had nothing to lose, and they played some really good volleyball. And kudos and credit to them for what they did, and they deserved it that night. So you never get over them. You got to go back to the drawing board and see why that happened. And you're not going to have some of those guys back because they're graduating. So you want to make sure that, again, every time we coach, we as coaches are always trying to get better, right? Every year, regardless if we've coached for a year or we coach for 26 years, you're always trying to get better. And you'll hear all these coaches, whatever level they're at, talk to you about that. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to figure out what I can do better. And so you take those kind of losses, and you let those guys know how that happened. And the feeling was not a good one. Those guys expected to walk through it, and it didn't happen. And then to get a second chance at them and have it even be worse, that was hard. That was really hard. And it didn't hit me until after the fact. And again, you're playing in that environment at Newport Harbor, which is always a tough place to play for a lot of reasons. They stuck it to us, and they deserved to win that year. And I was, there's nothing I can do. They earned it that year, 100%, whether people believe that or not.
Well, great little diagnosis right there. And as a Newport guy, I don't know why I'm suddenly okay, there we go. Sorry. I had to fix my camera there. My camera was acting a little wonky, but as a Newport guy, I just have loads of respect for you. As some of you know, Newport Harbor is my alma mater, but I have loads of respect for Michael Boehle and Loyola. I just felt really bad for that Loyola team in 2022, especially Dylan Klein. I told him, hey, I'm sorry that y'all lost, but you're a fantastic player, and all y'all really fought hard. And Dylan had the same respect to us, and he said we wouldn't want to lose to anyone else. But I do want to talk to you about the rivalry between Miracosta. I've always described Miracosta Loyola's rivalry as if USC and UCLA had a baby. What can you say about the Loyola Miracosta rivalry?
I think it's something that you don't see in boys volleyball. It's very unique. It's pretty incredible to see. I don't know if you witnessed it this year, but I've been involved in that rivalry for a long time, and to see the number of people that came out to watch this game, I've never seen a crowd like that before. It was insane. We usually play the game at Loyola Marymount University. Costa has since built a brand new gym, and so they wanted to play in their gym. It was their home game, but to see the rafters packed was insane. The rivalry is, and I think Loyola being a commuter school and getting tons of kids from Manhattan Beach made it that much more special too. So you have this community that comes out to watch in my opinion, two of the best volleyball teams or volleyball programs in the country go at it and be very respectful towards one another is incredible feeling. When we played them in the finals at Cerritos, the same atmosphere. Mike Middlebrook was telling me that the crowds weren't even a third of or a quarter of what we had. They were so small. And then all of a sudden our match comes and it's sold out. I mean, you were there, you saw what it looked like. And it was an incredible atmosphere. And to have those kids be able to play in front of their own fans and the Miracosta fans. And it doesn't get any better than that. And I will tell you this, club volleyball the rivalry is a good rivalry. It used to be a really horrible rivalry where, both sides, it just treated each other not very good. Now that club has gotten into the picture, everybody plays with one another. So there's a mutual respect, even with the coaching staff. I'll tell you this, I just had breakfast with Greg Snyder, the head coach at Miracosta, this morning, and wanted to pick my brain on how I do things. And, I was happy to help. So that rivalry, when you get on the court, is pretty impressive and pretty incredible and intense, but it's not a rivalry where it's win at all costs. one of those teams is going to lose, and it's going to go to, it's going to be a bummer, but it's bragging rights for the other team because we're both representing the Manhattan Beach community. So I think it's the best rivalry in high school volleyball, and I'm biased, and I'm sure Newport and CDM think they have one, and I'm sure maybe Santa Barbara and San Marcos up north, but I don't think they get the crowd that we get for our match that one time. And the proof is in the pudding. You saw it at CIF finals. You saw it at the first match in March. So it's a healthy rivalry. I'm debating what I want to do next year because it's my home game. So I don't know if I come into my tiny gym of 1,500 or do I get LMU to bring that tradition back to allow for more fans to experience that. I'll probably be that guy to get LMU and experience because I don't have the gym that Costa does. So I'm already looking forward to that. And it's, incredible. So we're fired up, very fired up.
And I can't wait to hopefully be there. Do you have any other shout outs or thank yous you want to give out before I send you on your way and we go to a commercial break?
I shout out to Teran and, and just StreamYard, Set Point. Like, you guys are trying to do something for the good of volleyball. And I'll even go a step further, the good of boys volleyball. And so I think it's really, really important for you guys to continue doing this. And if there's anything you ever need from me, as far as getting guests to come on this show, I'm happy to help. And I can get some big name people if we need it. You just got to let me know ahead of time. And I'm going to do it because you deserve this. Larry deserves it. And the time and effort you're putting in without much reward probably is pretty cool. And hopefully this lets some of the Orange County people see too that I'm all about boys volleyball. It's not about Loyola. It's about growing our sport. And some of my best friends, I was very fortunate to get inducted into the Southern California Hall of Fame this year. And, the guys that I thanked in my speech were some of my past colleagues, Rocky Sorelli, Danny Glenn, Craig Bazzani, Steve Conti, all those guys, like the healthy rivalries we had. And what made me a better coach was fantastic. So those are my shout outs, shout out to anybody who's coaching, these young men and young women. It's a tough profession, because you're a parent, you're a mentor. And, I give kudos to everybody who's doing this because we need more people out there mentoring these young people to become good people. So I want to thank you again for having me on. It was an honor. And I'm never too busy for you, Teran. I never am because you're never busy for me. So if I can ever help you and Larry in the future, please feel free to reach out. And I'll give a shout out to Travis Turner too. How about that?
Excellent. All right, Michael, thank you for your time. Congratulations on winning the CIF Southern Section Championship and getting inducted into the Southern California Boys Volleyball Hall of Fame. Have yourself a great rest of the night, and I will see you sometime down the road.
I will. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you very much. Take care.
All right. Take care, Michael.
All righty.
Mm-hmm. All right. That was Michael Boehle, the head coach of Loyola High School's boys volleyball team. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we'll recap week 2 of the men's VNL regarding the U.S. men's national team. Then we'll go over the Olympic 2024 women's volleyball team, and as well as the 2024 U.S. men's and women's beach Olympic team. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen D, host of the Show of the Land on IESports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Set Point here on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Let's Wine About DMV Sports with Mike Pat and The Show of the Land with Jen B. Both all that said and done, let us get on into the second half of our show. Once again, thank you to Michael Boehle, the head coach of Loyola High School's boys volleyball team. It is much appreciated that he was able to be a guest here, take a little time out of his day. And even though we ran into a little bit of some technical issues, we overcame them. All right, so let's discuss a little bit of some U.S. men's national team action as they wrapped up week 2 in the VNL. They actually had their full team as they took on the likes of Argentina, Italy, Serbia, and Canada in Ottawa, Canada, by the way. So on Tuesday, they kicked off the action against Argentina, swept Argentina 25-23, 25-21, and 26-24. Good way for the veterans to get back onto the court, because if you remember in the first event of the VNL, or the first week of the VNL on the men's side, the U.S. men's national team did not have their full lineup. They did not have their full roster. They just had a lot of young guys playing just because they wanted to get some practice time in and then maybe prepare for the Olympics, because the U.S. is qualified for the Olympics. So Thursday, the U.S. had their second match against Italy. Italy actually suffered a loss prior to that, but more on that later. But Italy kind of took their anger out on the U.S. as they wound up sweeping the U.S., but it was actually fairly close in the first two sets, 25-23 and then 26-24. I bet you the U.S. would have loved to have a few of those points back, but unfortunately it was to no avail. And then Italy just wound up winning the third set, 25-20. That's still pretty darn good, especially since Italy, they kind of did have a little bit of a tough loss, which, again, I'll get into a little bit later. But it was a tough one for the U.S. I feel the rust kind of caught up to the U.S. in that regard. But I will just say it's still a solid showing. Yes, it was a 3-set sweep for the U.S., but it can be remedied. Those losses can be remedied. And then Friday, I will also just say the U.S. also having games on Friday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday does not help them in that regard. But Friday, the U.S. took on Serbia, and they wound up bouncing back, winning in 4 sets. They dropped the first set 25-23, but wound up winning the next set in strong fashion, 25-15. And then they won the third set in close fashion, 25-23. And then they wound up winning the fourth set, 25-14, winning the match against Serbia. And then they took on the host team, Canada, which it was being held in Ottawa, by the way. Canada took the first set 25-16. The U.S. took the second set 25-19. And then Canada, oh, man. If there are two sets that the U.S. would love to have back outside of the Italy match, it's the Canada match. They lost the third set 26-24, and they wound up losing the fourth set 28-26. So I feel, again, there was more rust, and I feel home court advantage might have helped Canada, but I'm not going to use the latter part of that excuse in terms of why the U.S. lost. I feel it was just a little bit of rust. But again, the U.S. is qualified for the Olympics, and they're 3-5 going into week 3, and it was good to see the starters get back, the veteran guys get back onto the court and whatnot. So I think for the U.S., they're still growing, they're still competing, and I think they will be just fine when it comes to the Olympics, and as well as the VNL. All right, but that's that for the U.S. men's national team in the VNL. So some other notables when it came to the VNL in week 2. So I mentioned Italy losing before the U.S., before their match against the U.S. They actually lost on Wednesday to France, who, if you remember, they wound up winning the gold medal in the Olympics. Italy wound up losing to France in 5, 25-23, 18-25, 25-23, 19-25, and 15-10 on Wednesday. So France is still proving that they are still one of the teams to beat in terms of the VNL and in terms of the entire Olympics. And then Slovenia, which was also undefeated, they actually wound up losing to Japan, who lost one of their star players to injury. Japan beat Slovenia on Saturday, 25-23, 19-25, 26-24, and 25-21. So with those two teams losing, there are no teams undefeated in terms of the VNL on the men's side. So that's pretty notable. And then here is some history that was made. Germany and Turkey wound up making history for the most combined points scored in a VNL set, being 44-42, which I think was pretty impressive. The previous record was actually USA versus Argentina when they wound up going 43-41 in Anaheim last year. And oh man, I wish I could have gone to that one. But that was some history that was made in terms of the men's VNL. And that was a barn burner of a 5-set match between Turkey and Germany as well. So you have that right there. And that's pretty much all the notables when it came to the VNL on the men's side in terms of week number 2. So I'm going to skip the women's preview in terms of week 3 of the VNL and just go into the U.S. women's Olympic roster in terms of their indoors. So obviously everyone saw the roster. Everyone obviously kind of freaked out when they saw that Micah Hancock isn't on the roster, but she is an alternative. So in the event where someone gets hurt, heaven forbid, or Karch Karai has to switch out some players, Micah Hancock will get a chance to basically get her time to shine. But the setters will be Jordan Poulter, who is a returner, as well as Lauren Carlini, a former Wisconsin setter. So Lauren Carlini, Dana Retke, Catherine Plummer, Avery Skinner, the former Kentucky star, and there's one other player. I'm blank. It was Avery Skinner, Dana Retke, Catherine Plummer, and Lauren Carlini. Those are the 4 players that are all first-timers. Everyone else is a returning player from the gold medal that was won in 2021. So the players are Jordan Poulter, Avery Skinner, Justine Wong-Orantes, Lauren Carlini, Jordan Larson, Annie Drews, Jordan Thompson, Haley Washington, Dana Retke, Catherine Plummer, Kelsey Robinson-Cook, and Chiaka Ugbagu. And the alternates are Micah Hancock, Ali Fronti, Morgan Hentz, Anna Stevenson-Hall, and Kalia Lanier. So there you have it when it comes to the U.S. women's national team and the Olympic team for that matter. That will be heading down to Paris. Bonjour and safe travels to the Olympic team. I'm hoping, knock on wood, that I'll be able to see them at Long Beach State because remember, they have that USA Challenge Cup where they play, I think it's Lithuania. Forgive me if I don't know that off the top of my head, but they are playing at Long Beach State in like the middle of July, and I'm hoping to see them in all 3 matches beforehand. So if you haven't bought your tickets, do so right now. And no, this show is not sponsored by USA Volleyball, but I digress. All right, but that's that for the U.S. women's indoor team. Now for the U.S. beach volleyball team. So the men's and women's teams are so different. It's not like a bunch of players. It's just pairs that have qualified for the U.S. or for the Olympics. So the U.S. has 2 pairs in each gender when it comes to the men's and women's side. So on the men's side, you've got Andy Benish and Miles Partain, who have both qualified. Both are former USC and UCLA alums, respectively. And then the other U.S. men's volleyball pair that will be in the Olympics is Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. If you don't know who Chase Budinger is, he used to be a former basketball player, and he played in the McDonald's All-American game where he played against Kevin Durant. And now look at him. He's an Olympic qualifier for the U.S. men's national team. It's just phenomenal right there. And then on the women's side, regarding the U.S. beach volleyball roster, it's Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang, and then Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, a.k.a. Team Tiger, as Arthur Parsons, my colleague, likes to call them. And you know what? Since we're calling Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss Team Tiger, we're going to call Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang Team Trojan. That's going to be my nickname for the both of them. And maybe Larry B can take credit as well. But for Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes, they actually had a great weekend, as they actually wound up winning gold yesterday in a international tournament. They actually, in the semifinals, they took down Ana Patricia Silva Ramos and Duda Santos Lisboa of Brazil in the semifinals, 25-19 and 25-18. Keep in mind that was the #1 pair in the nation, being Ana Patricia and Duda. And for Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang to win that one, that was pretty impressive. In the final, they actually wound up facing Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson. And if you're wondering if that sounds familiar, that's actually the same Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson that wound up winning the AVP's Huntington Beach Open. And in thrilling fashion, Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang got a little revenge on the Canadian duo, as they wound up winning in a thriller of a 3-set match, 21-13, 21-23, and 15-12. So great job to Team Trojan, aka Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes, on winning gold. I think that's pretty good. In the 3rd place match, Tina Gradina, a former USC beach volleyball national champion, she wound up finishing 3rd with her partner Anastasia Samoylova, as they wound up beating Ana Patricia and Duda in the 3rd place match, 21-18 and 21-19. And then I guess in other U.S. men's volleyball, beach volleyball news, Andy Benish and Miles Partain finished 3rd in the same tournament that Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang partook in, except it was on the men's side. So there you go. That's pretty much that right there in regards to the beach volleyball rosters and where they're at in terms of the U.S. And we wish them nothing but the best. Everyone at IE Sports Radio wishes them nothing but the best when it comes to representing the good old US of A in terms of beach volleyball and men's volleyball. But on that note, that's going to do it for that little bit of USA volleyball news. So we got to get back on into the giveaway, the set point giveaway. So I actually have backup questions, like I said, in case my forgetful butt decided to be silly or pull a Keke Palmer on password. Sorry, Keke. I had backup questions. So the second question is, I had John Sparrow on as a guest on Set Point. What episode number did I have John Sparrow? So that is question number 2 of my 3-part harmony questions. What episode number did I have John Sparrow on? Write your answer down or keep it stored in your mind. Hopefully you don't forget it like I did. So that's question number 2. And since we're pretty much near the tail end of the show, let's jump to question number 3. So question number 3, and this one might be a little bit tricky, but here it is. What time did the first ever episode of Set Point go live? Let me say that again. What time did the first ever episode of Set Point go live? And here's a clue. Think Pacific time. Think Pacific time. So basically just put your answer in Pacific time, or you just put the answer in particular. You don't even need to put Pacific. You just need to give me a certain time. So just give me a certain time. And if you win, you win. And if you don't, you tough tamale. But that is pretty much that when it comes to question number 3. So we have a few more minutes before we head on out. So let's talk about the origin of set point. So I always talk about the origin of set point when it comes to a milestone episode, whether it's like the 50th episode, 250th episode, or the yearly annual episode of set point. So set point originated pretty much back in 2019, and that was pretty much when I joined IE Sports Radio, but I didn't start off with set point. I started off as the co-host to our former baseball show, Bases Loaded, but unfortunately that didn't really work out for me. So I was Larry's co-host for 3 and Out, College Edition, which I currently am now, as well as the Defining Moment. But unfortunately, me being the co-host for Defining Moment also didn't work out that as well. So I said, well, what are you going to do with me? I mean, you brought me on to be a podcaster. So he said, well, since you talked really well about volleyball in one of our segments on Defining Moment, why not have a volleyball show? This eventually set point was born. And at first, like I said, it wasn't all roses and candies and smiles and whatnot. I had some hardships. It was tough at first, but I didn't really give up, even though there was a point where I kind of wanted to throw in the towel, but I just said, I can't give up on this. I got to keep pushing and whatnot. So I had to basically put on my big boy pants and just keep grinding. Even through the COVID years. Like, the COVID year was probably the toughest year, and I was thinking, how am I going to survive without any volleyball being played or sports being played? And then I had to think of creative ways to keep set point going. And that was because I had to have guests. And you know how I had Michael Boehle, who is the head coach of Loyola High School boys volleyball. I've had many guests in terms of high school boys volleyball and maybe girls volleyball teams, like Craig Pizzanti of Huntington Beach, Dave Huber of Los Alamitos. And they've become good friends who I've come to support every now and then when it comes to their volleyball matches when I'm free and whatnot. So all in all, when it comes to set point, I just have had many countless memories. I've gone to a bunch of amazing matches, whether it's the NVA, whether it's the NCAA National Championship on the men's side, whether it's the Bulgaria, the USA Bulgaria men's match from the VNL in Anaheim from last year. Even though I was a fan and not a member of the media, I've just had a bunch of countless memories, and I'm hoping to just continue to keep set point growing, and I'm hoping to continue to basically be part of the IE Sports Radio family and just make set point become a big volleyball thing. And here's the thing. I'm going to continue to try to be on StreamYard for as long as I possibly can. I was so hesitant because of technology and whatnot, but I think I've warmed up to it, and I think I'm ready to make the full-on transition to StreamYard. Now, there might be days where I might go to Spreaker, but I think StreamYard is the way to go. And picture-in-picture is so important, just because it's nothing against audio, but I think people just want to see more visual and whatnot. And I kind of have to give a lot of thank yous. I promise to everyone I won't be too long. I have to give a big thank you to Daniel Gilman and Nick Haley of 6 Rotations. They're kind of I wouldn't say they're the golden shining example. I mean, they're amazing and all, but they're kind of the reason why I kind of wanted to shift over to StreamYard and whatnot, because their show is basically a video show and whatnot. And I think it's quite amazing that they continue to do their thing for so long, even though set point's kind of been longer than 6 Rotations, but I digress. Another shout I want to give out to is to Marcus Losgreat. When I first told my story of set point, he was there to listen to it for the most part. And he told me the best thing that I could always remember: a house is never built overnight. Ever since he told me that, I've always remembered that. And I've always remembered that saying. And I've basically said, he's right. A house is never built overnight. And Marcus Losgreat is a wise man. So when he speaks, you listen. So I have to give a thank you to Marcus Losgreat. Also have to give a thank you to all the players and coaches that I've interviewed, whether it's for set point or whether it's for after matches. kind of like what I did with Michael Boehle when I walked with him after the CIF Southern Section Championship match. And also thank you to the administrators for not like saying, hit the road, Jack. Don't go near our coaches. You're not media. I thank you for not butting in and not making me sad and whatnot. So I gotta thank the school administrators and whatnot. So thank you. And also the big thank you I have to give you to is to Larry B. Without Larry B, I'm probably not here doing Set Point, and there's not even a Set Point. And without Larry, I'm probably not even doing StreamYard. So I have to give a big thank you to Larry B for allowing me to do Set Point and for basically telling me to just keep pressing forward with Set Point. And I know there have been ups and downs and whatnot, but honestly, like Marcus said, a house is never built overnight. And I hope to continue to do those amazing things. And let's keep building this thing to the top. And who knows, maybe we'll just continue to grow and grow to the point where we're going to need extra large pans. So there you have it right there. That's basically the miniaturized version of Set Point and how Set Point originated in a nutshell. And I'm going to do whatever I can to try to improve Set Point, whether it's having shorter shows or maybe having more experiences, or heck, maybe if I can get the money, flying out to Louisville or wherever the ABCA convention is going to be held at, and then doing a live show there, and then just meeting people saying, hey, I'm Teran Rodriguez. I'm the host of Set Point on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. That was a good little radio announcer voice. But anyway, I'm hoping to continue to do great things. And like I said on my personal account, it's hard to believe that I'm a quarter of the way to the millennium mark. It's just amazing. So, and one more thing, thank you I have to give up to, and then we'll cue the music, is to you, the fans. You fans are basically why I do what I do. And you are basically the oil that keeps the car going. And without you, I don't know what I'd do without you. So to those that have stuck by me, I really do appreciate you. I promise you I will improve when it comes to Set Point and whatnot, especially since I'm doing StreamYard. So I love y'all. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to drop the beat because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you're listening at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. And just like that man on screen says, salute. Salute to you, Marcus Wilfred, because, like I said, he's one of my big thank yous that I have without you, just because without his advice, I don't know if I would have gotten through the tough times. So thank you to Marcus Wilfred and to Larry B and to everyone that tuned in. It really means a lot. Set Point will obviously be going live this week. Oh, I'm sorry, not this week. Next week. Set Point will be going live next week. Just a reminder, just go back. If you can, definitely do go back and listen. But here are the questions again. What episode number did I first do StreamYard? What time was the first ever episode of Set Point? And what episode number did I have John Spraw in terms of Set Point as a guest? So those are the recap of the 3 questions. I hope y'all can hear me. I appreciate each and every one of you that have continued your support. Thank you once again to my guest, Michael Boehle, for being here as a guest. I really do appreciate him. For Michael Boehle, as well as everyone here at IESR, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. I will see you on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Enjoy the volleyball action this week. Peace!